Hello friend, to support me kindly comment and subscribe if you have not already. Thank you for your support. Chapter 2440, Who is Stronger and Who is Weaker? 1. Darabberg had a proud smile on his lips. He said casually, "Anyway, we've pretty much figured out the situation in the Dark Sun Forest. I'm not afraid to tell you. Not long ago, we encountered a mental polluter from the Dark Sun Forest. His ability index was as high as 45,000 points, but we still managed to take him down easily. You should know who needs to solve your crisis, right?" After Darabberg finished speaking, he waited smugly for the praise from others. He longed to see the shocked expressions on Zhang Yi's and King Arthur's faces, hoping they would admit that Fremont's Inhumans were the most powerful and the main force of the Allied forces. But after waiting for a long time, he did not receive the response he wanted, which made Darzaborg somewhat dissatisfied. Zhang Yi and the others stood there, their expressions somewhat strange. They all stared at Darabberg, while Zhang Yi's lips twitched uncontrollably. He reminded himself, "No, I must hold back," but laughing out loud now would hurt their pride. Everyone was feeling extremely uncomfortable. In Darzaborg's eyes, this became a fact that he was unwilling to accept Fremont's record, hence his expression of inferiority and pain. "There's nothing to be ashamed of. We Fremons have always been a warlike people. Strength is our hallmark." Alexei, however, sensed something from the faces of Zhang Yi and the others, but he didn't say anything. He simply stepped aside and watched Darabberg's performance. Mirana's lips curled up almost imperceptibly. She slowly stepped forward, her gaze sweeping calmly over the surrounding ranks. "Darzaborg, you're exaggerating. You can't even defeat a mental polluter, yet you dare to talk about saving the world. It's just a trivial matter." Zhang Yi nodded in agreement. There really wasn't much to say. He single-handedly killed several mental polluters, including some at the night level. Have you seen him talking about it every day with a megaphone? However, he could understand Mirana and the others. After all, a mental polluter with a superpower index of 45,000 is definitely a big boss-level existence for human superhumans. But everyone present had witnessed Zhang Yi killing mentally pollutants as easily as cutting melons and vegetables. Mirana looked at Zhang Yi and said coldly, "You don't need to worry anymore, because our Fremont team has arrived. Only we can truly resolve the crisis on the moon." Darabberg chimed in. Yes, the moon's crisis would have descended into chaos long ago without the warriors of Fremont. It's a pity that you people can't even defeat a single corruptor for several days. The warriors of Fremont burst into laughter, nodding in approval, clearly energized by their own words. Their laughter was full of confidence and arrogance, as if the fate of the entire universe was in their hands. The others exchanged glances, feeling somewhat awkward. Morgan and Brian, in particular, clearly didn't take Fremon's words seriously, looking at these smug guys with a hint of amusement on their faces. "Haha, these guys are really good at bragging." Morgan chuckled and teased in a low voice. But it's no wonder, after all, every fighting nation likes to boast about themselves like this. Brian shook his head, a hint of mockery flashing in his eyes. "That's right, it sounds earth-shattering, enough to make us little guys bow down." Just as the warriors of Fremont were getting more and more excited and seemed incredibly arrogant, Brian walked over unhurriedly. He patted Darabberg on the shoulder casually and smiled. "Dude, you guys were pretty good at taking down the mental polluters. 45,000 points of superpower index? You guys are practically the superheroes of the entire planet Earth." Darabberg waved his hand. "I dare not accept the title of hero. You are truly great and deserve it. After all, you all escaped beyond the Dark Sun Forest. Only our pantheon fought a real battle and killed a mental polluter." He glanced at the crowd and said in a somewhat reproachful voice, "All right, we don't have time to waste here. We need to get back as soon as possible and find the spark. After all, every day we're late, the danger on Earth increases." Professor Leonardo da Vinci took a deep breath and gave the dog a look. "I'm going to throw up if I listen to them any longer. Tell them the truth." Why should Brian speak? It would be too hurtful for anyone to talk about this. But if it comes from a dog's mouth, it's even more comical. Brian cleared his throat, then walked up to the crowd in the Pantheon, his eyes drooping, and spread his hands. What crisis? The crisis has been resolved. We called you back to inform you that you can return to Earth. Brian's tone remained calm, but his words struck the Fremont warriors like a hammer blow, leaving them speechless for a moment. What did you say? Daraberg's smile froze on his face. Morana and the warriors of the Pantheon stared at it in astonishment. They suspected they were hallucinating, or that the dog hadn't learned human language properly. Brian said lazily, "Under the leadership of my good brother Chaos, we have found the spark and handed it over to the Lunarian Empire. Now, the seal has been reinforced, and it's all over. In other words, it's spread its paws. There's nothing to do, just calling you back." Brian continued, "So, my heroes, there's no need to boast anymore. The crisis on the moon has long been completely quelled. Your heroic deeds, even if recorded in history books, will probably only be a transitional event." The warriors of Fremont froze for a moment, their smiles stiffening for a few seconds. Dasberg, in particular, had his mouth slightly agape, clearly unable to believe what Brian had said. Morana's smugness vanished instantly, replaced by shock and embarrassment. Jesserberg muttered to himself, "This can't be right." They wanted to argue that even they, as a group of powerful individuals, had expended tremendous effort to deal with a single person who had become a mental polluter. They were still a long way from venturing deep into the dark sun forest. But now you're telling them that Zhang Yi and the others not only found the fire seed and resolved the crisis on Earth in just 2 days, but also had time to come and pick them up? They were all unwilling to accept this fact, but their gazes swept over everyone present. The look in the eyes of these renowned powerhouses on Earth had already given them the answer. Chapter 2441: Who is Stronger and Who is Weaker? 2. The smile doesn't disappear, it just moves on. The teasing expressions on everyone's faces could no longer be concealed, but they couldn't burst into laughter in front of everyone in the Pantheon. All that was left for Morana and the others was embarrassment. Alexei turned his head away and sighed helplessly. "I warned them long ago not to be so arrogant. At least figure out the situation before you act all high and mighty. But then again, you really can't blame Morana and the others. It's unimaginable to normal people that Zhang Yi could traverse the dark sun forest so quickly. Over the past 6 months, Morana led the Pantheon deep into the Arctic Ocean. They have grown tremendously, and their strength has increased by leaps and bounds. Therefore, Morana had anticipated that her current strength was comparable to Zhang Yi's. Even though he's not Zhang Yi's match, the gap isn't too big, roughly 5.5 to 4.5. So how could she have imagined that Zhang Yi would arrive here so quickly? A rare blush appeared on her usually cold face, and she quietly clenched her fist. The louder the warriors of the Pantheon laughed just moments ago, the more embarrassed they became now. The most impulsive one, Daraberg, wished he could dig a hole in the floor and crawl into it right then and there. Zhang Yi finally stepped forward, glancing indifferently at the men from Fremont. "Brian is right. The crisis on the moon has been resolved by us. Everyone relax. It's time for us to return to Earth." These words did not make Zhang Yi appear arrogant. On the contrary, they carried a sense of matter-of-fact calm, as if he had long been accustomed to the magnificent deeds of these human heroes. The warriors of Fremont were stunned, especially Morana, whose eyes began to show a complex emotion, and the turmoil in her heart was hard to quell. She knew Zhang Yi was no ordinary person, but she never expected him to handle such a big problem on the moon so easily. How did you do that?" Morana finally spoke, his voice filled with shock. "That wasn't an ordinary crisis, and you actually managed to." Zhang Yi smiled slightly. "You don't need to worry about the fire source anymore. Although your help is very important, only I can come up with the real solution." The warriors of Fremont were utterly speechless. Their pride and smugness instantly turned into embarrassment and helplessness. Just moments ago they were boasting about their strength, but now they can only look up to Zhang Yi's back. It seems, Zhang Yi looked at them, a helpless smile flashing in his eyes, that you need to improve further before you can understand what a true strong person is like. Brian laughed even harder, patting Daraberg on the shoulder. Lord Vulcan, you defeated the 45,000-point mental polluter, but don't forget, the real danger is no longer at that level. Those kinds of beings are as easy for my Chaos brother to crush as ants, one in each hand. While there is some exaggeration in these words, it's not that exaggerated. King Arthur and the others appeared calm, which left Morana and Darzaborg speechless with shock. Has the gap between them and Zhang Yi grown to this extent without them even realizing it? The warriors of Fremont fell into a deep silence, an awkward atmosphere filling the air between them, and they dared not utter those bold words again. All right, the issue of the moon is over. Zhang Yi clapped his hands. It's almost time. The others shouldn't be showing up anymore. As previously agreed, resources will be allocated based on contribution value after the task is completed. You've all worked hard these past 2 days. Zhang Yi's voice was calm, yet it carried a firm aura. Your efforts will not be in vain. The resources are ready, and I will distribute them. If you have any opinions, you can raise them. Whether I listen or not is up to me. Zhang Yi's eyes and tone were indifferent, as if he were talking about a trivial matter. But no one dared to voice their opinions. Everyone nodded in agreement, and Zhang Yi began to take out the resources and distribute them. He told everyone, although many have not returned, I will ensure that every nation receives its due resources according to the rules. Even those who died in battle will have their share. I will give you 50% of the resources we obtained from the 2 great empires of the Moon people. Upon hearing this, everyone looked on with suspicion. They weren't dealing with Zhang Yi for the first time, so they didn't believe he would give half of his share to everyone. It would be good if we could achieve 20 or 30% success. Morgan muttered to himself. Actually, he was overthinking it. Zhang Yi only planned to give them 10% as a consolation prize. After all, he deserves the main credit this time. Only he knows how many resources were actually available. Saying he got 50% is just empty promises to make his buddies feel better. No one dared to object. They could only watch Zhang Yi expectantly, waiting to receive the resources. After all, the allocation of these resources is related to their future survival, and many of these extraordinary people came for the resources. At this time, resources were not only a source of replenishment for them, but also a symbol of proving their abilities. Fortunately, the 2 great empires of the moon are rich in resources, and even if Zhang Yi only gives them a portion, it is enough to make them happy. Everyone's face was beaming with smiles, and there were no more complaints. Those who have their own thoughts should just keep them to themselves. After all, they don't have Zhang Yi's abilities. As for those countries where all the soldiers died in battle, Zhang Yi allocated resources and instructed Yang Xinxin to send people to them after she returned. At this point, the resources on the moon have been allocated, and everyone has received their due reward. The most important thing now is how to transform these resources into power. The lunar journey has now come to a complete end. At Zhang Yi's command, the group began their return journey. As the spaceship started, Zhang Yi sat on the soft, comfortable sofa by the porthole, looking at the dark universe outside and the barren earth with a determined gaze. The road ahead is still long and dangerous, but he is ready to lead them to meet all challenges. The Colombian crew returned to their own spacecraft, which, along with the Dreamer, departed the lunar surface. Although they were shocked by Zhang Yi's strength, they also knew that the battles to come would be the real test of their fate. Let's go, Zhang Yi commanded in a low voice. The spaceship's engines roared once more, and the ship steadily ascended, carrying a group of warriors ready to meet future challenges, heading towards the unknown depths of interstellar space. The shadow of the lunar crisis has finally dissipated, but an even greater crisis and mission await them. Chapter 2442, Who is Stronger and Who is Weaker? 3. The Dreamer slowly landed on the tarmac in Tianhai City. Zhang Yi stepped out of the spaceship's hatch, and the scene before him remained unchanged. Tianhai City had developed very rapidly, and it was no exaggeration to call it the largest metropolis in Huashu Kingdom. Seeing the city he built with his own hands, Zhang Yi felt a sense of pride, like a king surveying his territory. This journey brought him not only new strength and resources, but also a series of unsolved mysteries and challenges. In just a few days, Zhang Yi realized that he was no longer the same person he used to be. Each time he becomes stronger, he takes on more responsibility. But looking back on everything he has worked hard for over the past 5 years, he is still filled with pride. Sunlight streamed through the clouds in Tianhai City. The air was fresh, and the whole city seemed as peaceful as ever. However, this tranquility could not conceal the turmoil within Zhang Yi's heart. When he stepped off the spaceship, Deng Xintong was already there with his men to greet him. "I thought you guys would be gone for a month or two, Zhang Yi. I didn't expect you to be back so soon," Deng Xintong said with a smile, his voice tinged with a hint of jest and ease. Zhang Yi smiled slightly and didn't offer any further explanation. Yes, the mission was completed faster than expected. People from other countries also disembarked from the spaceship, and Zhang Yi asked Deng Xintong to arrange for them to find a place to rest first. Once they returned to Earth, it was easy for them to go back whenever they wanted. They could leave at any time. Zhang Yi is currently busy with other things, so she won't spend much time with them. Indra and the others did not stay long. Their trip to the moon had yielded great results, and they were all busy returning home as soon as possible to digest them. So everyone said their goodbyes and boarded the same planes they had come on to return home. After seeing those people off, Zhang Yi and his group returned to the central area of Tianhai City. Many residents along the way bowed respectfully upon seeing Zhang Yi, expressing their heartfelt reverence for this guardian deity. Yang Xinxin's plan to create a god has already begun. From Tianhai City to the entire Huashu Kingdom, every city will prominently publicize Zhang Yi's past contributions every day. Subtly and gradually, the glorious image of Zhang Yi, especially his image wearing the demon god armor, was imprinted in the hearts of every person in the Huashu Kingdom. In this way, we can try to see if we can unite people's hearts with the power of faith. Arriving at the very center of the city, Zhang Yi retrieved the Sky Sea Fortress, and the group returned to the warm and cozy enormous luxury villa. The temperature inside is always maintained at a comfortable 22 degrees Celsius, with constant temperature, constant oxygen, and balanced humidity. Zhang Yi took off his armor, leaving him in only a black, form-fitting battle suit, and plopped down on the sofa. Phew, that feels so good. The 2-day trip to the moon has really exhausted me. Zhou Ke immediately came over and offered her soft, warm lap pillow, followed by a head massage. Yang Xia stood to the side, feeding the animals with snacks and fruit. A leisurely and comfortable life is probably just like this. Zhang Yi stretched and lay down, saying to everyone, "I have some things to take care of next, so I might go into seclusion for a while to absorb what I've gained this time." He couldn't possibly absorb all the resources he obtained from the moon, so he left some to share with the rest of the team. Don't just stand around, improve your strength as soon as possible, understand? Zhang Yi addressed everyone. Uncle Yu nodded. Understood. We definitely won't hold you back. Su Pengzi mustered his courage and stepped forward to Zhang Yi, saying, Big Brother Lao, I have something I'd like to ask you for a favor. Zhang Yi raised an eyebrow. What is it? Speak. Fatty Su said, Could you give me a piece of the origin? Just a piece from the mentally polluted person would be enough. Now, under the guidance of the Black Moon Priest, they have come to understand that the origin of powerful superhumans is the initial version of the spirit of ritual. Zhang Yi immediately understood Fatty Su's purpose. He looked at Li Yangyang, who was not far away. Did you ask for it for your boyfriend or girlfriend? Fatty Su chuckled, scratched his head, and said with a smile, Everyone in our team is now an Epsilon-level superhuman. Yangyang is always by our side, but she can't contribute much, and she's always felt ashamed. Zhang Yi smiled enigmatically and said to him, You should discuss this with Xian. Right now, Li Yangyang is her assistant. Zhang Yi didn't pay much attention to Li Yangyang. Zhang Yi only took her in to take care of Fatty Su. But he didn't completely trust her. He was too lazy to waste time on such matters. He placed her next to Yang Xinxin because, given Yang Xinxin's intelligence, no amount of her little tricks could be hidden. If Yang Xinxin approves of her, Zhang Yi won't care. After all, for Zhang Yi now, creating an inhuman of the epsilon level is no longer a difficult task. It's just a question of whether it's necessary. Upon hearing this, Fatty Su immediately looked at Yang Xinxin in a flattering manner. Yang Xinxin smiled deeply, her obsidian-like eyes gleaming with an unusual light. Sure, no problem at all. She looked at Li Yangyang. Yangyang, come with me later. Li Yangyang nodded, but her heart was pounding. When facing Yang Xinxin, she always felt like she was being seen through, as if nothing could be hidden from her eyes. Deng Shintong nodded, as if he had expected this. Absorb this well, but don't forget there are still some things to deal with. The outside world is constantly changing. While you were away, things also changed here on Earth. Zhang Yi's eyes flashed. Oh, I've only been gone a few days. Has something interesting happened here? Deng Shintong looked at him and said with a meaningful smile, embryo laboratories seem to have begun to be widely set up in countries around the world. The laws of the material world dictate that etheric fragments are bestowed upon the embryo during its 3rd month of formation. The purest, uncontaminated energy of the ether. Someone discovered this vulnerability and began mass-producing embryos to obtain etheric energy. Zhang Yi obtained this intelligence from the Deng family. Unexpectedly, countries around the world started this project so quickly. What do you think caused someone to leak our research findings? Zhang Yi took a bite of banana and asked casually. Deng Shintong shook his head. Information between countries around the world is basically cut off nowadays. The internet control in various countries is so strict that it's outrageous. And in such a short period of time, similar ideas have emerged all over the world. There is only one explanation, the combination of the unconscious. Upon hearing this, Professor Leonardo da Vinci, who was drinking coffee there, dismissively remarked, "This is nothing more than the 100 Monkeys effect." Dear viewers, thanks for staying with me. We'll try to get you more updates. Please like and subscribe and share the video with your friends. Love you all.